What killed the great megafauna of Southern California? For decades, no one could answer this question definitively. Now, evidence from the La Brea tar pits has settled this mystery. The answer comes from a complete archive of environmental change preserved with remarkable precision in asphalt. Ancient humans in this region were sophisticated environmental actors who navigated a rapidly changing world. They were not passive observers of a disappearing ecosystem. They were expert problem solvers who used fire deliberately to manage their surroundings. They understood seasonal cycles and animal behavior with a level of detail that ensured their survival through extreme shifts. This was not a matter of luck, but a result of systematic knowledge passed down through generations. The La Brea tar pits provide a record of time unlike almost any other place on Earth. Along the 6th Street Fault in modern Los Angeles, natural asphalt has seeped to the surface for 50,000 years. These shallow pools were persistent mechanisms that quietly accumulated evidence year after year. They were not catastrophic traps that formed once and then vanished. Because the seeping never stopped, the site created a layered sequence of history. Asphalt behaves differently than mud or soil because it immobilizes animals almost immediately. When a large herbivore became trapped, its struggles attracted predators. These carnivores then became trapped themselves, creating a feedback loop of remains. Over time, dust and sediment settled on the surface and covered the bones. Then, new asphalt seeped upward to seal the layer. This process created a perfect stratification where older material remained sealed beneath newer deposits. The chemistry of this preservation is extraordinary because asphalt permeates bones at a microscopic level. It fills pores and replaces water, transforming the skeleton into a durable composite. This process excludes oxygen and repels water. It effectively shuts out the bacteria that normally digest organic material. While most environments expose bones to weathering and decay, the asphalt blocks these destructive pathways. Delicate structures that would normally collapse survived intact for millennia. Researchers have found fragile bird bones and small mammal skeletons preserved perfectly. The site even contains microfossils, such as pollen grains and insects. This continuous sealing produced a complete ecological census of the late Pleistocene. It covers shifts in temperature, rainfall, and vegetation over 50,000 years. Scientists use radiocarbon dating to determine the exact age of these fossils. Radiocarbon dating measures the decay of carbon-14, which is an isotope that disappears at a known rate. Because proteins survive well in asphalt, researchers can extract the material needed for precise dating. This allows them to map how the ecosystem responded to climate fluctuations with unusual accuracy. However, the same chemistry that preserves bone structure creates a hard limit for genetic research. DNA does not survive in the La Brea tar pits. Asphalt contains organic compounds that infiltrate bone tissue and interfere with genetic material. Multiple attempts to extract ancient DNA from these fossils have failed. The problem is not the age of the bones, but the hydrocarbons in the tar. Solvents like petroleum ether can remove the tar, but they also destroy any surviving DNA fragments. This means La Brea remains closed to genomic recovery. In contrast, permafrost sites in the north preserve DNA because freezing temperatures slow down chemical reactions. But the lack of DNA at La Brea is not a failure of the site. It simply defines which questions the evidence can answer definitively. The record here tells us exactly how these animals lived and fed. The bones retain isotopic signatures that reveal the diet and habitat of each species. Isotopes are chemical markers that act like a signature of the food an animal ate. Tooth wear patterns show the specific feeding strategies used by predators and herbivores. Pathologies, or signs of old injuries, record how animals survived and healed in a competitive environment. The high number of carnivores in the pits reveals strategic behavior. Predators responded to the distress signals of trapped prey. They approached these immobilized animals as clear opportunities for food. Their repeated entrapment over thousands of years demonstrates consistent behavioral patterns. This is a behavioral record preserved in asphalt, showing how skilled hunters operated in this landscape. Early humans lived alongside these species and mastered the same environment. They tracked caribou and mammoths with expert precision. They knew exactly when herds would cross specific mountain passes. They positioned themselves days ahead of time to wait. This timing was not an accident. It was the result of a deep understanding of animal migration. Ancient groups also possessed masterful knowledge of fire. They did not just happen upon it, they used it as a strategic tool to reshape the landscape. By clearing underbrush, they encouraged the growth of specific plants that attracted game. This deliberate use of fire is visible in the charcoal records preserved in the sediment. It shows humans were managing their environment thousands of years ago. The evidence for this capability is found in the sudden surge of fire frequency. Around 12,900 years ago, the amount of charcoal in the record increased dramatically. This surge happened at the same time the human population in Southern California grew. The charcoal patterns are not consistent with natural lightning strikes. They indicate systematic, human-led burning across the region. This fire use coincided with a major shift in the climate. The world was warming, not cooling, as the Ice Age ended. This warming trend created a climate-induced ecological state shift. A state shift is a rapid and permanent change in the basic structure of an ecosystem. The megafauna were already under stress from these changing temperatures. Then, human-amplified fire accelerated the process. The combination of a warming climate and increased fire frequency was too much for the large animals to handle. Vegetation shifted decisively from lush environments to drier, fire-adapted landscapes. The megafaunal world of Southern California was gone by about 12,900 years ago. The sequence of events is established by a dense and continuous record. One of the most famous species at La Brea was the dire wolf. These were not just larger versions of modern wolves. They were a distinct lineage that diverged from other canids millions of years ago. Because La Brea lacks DNA, researchers had to look elsewhere for genetic answers. They found DNA in dire wolf remains from Ohio and Idaho. When they compared this DNA to the physical evidence from La Brea, the result was a breakthrough. The genetic data showed that dire wolves were highly specialized. They were not closely related to gray wolves or coyotes. At La Brea, researchers found that dire wolves suffered from high levels of inbreeding toward the end. Inbreeding happens when a population becomes too small and loses its genetic diversity. This was not a sign of biological weakness. It was a measurable result of shrinking populations as their prey declined. Dire wolves were masterful predators that dominated their ecosystem for millennia. They used sophisticated coordination and physical mastery to hunt. Their extinction was the result of a total environmental collapse that even their skills could not overcome. Smoking gun proof of human impact comes from the analysis of charcoal and pollen. 3 independent labs confirmed identical results in the timing of these shifts. They found that the fire surge happened exactly as the megafauna began to disappear. The pollen counts show that large trees were replaced by shrubs that thrive after fires. This transition was fast and permanent. Ancient humans adapted to this new world with remarkable intelligence. They did not vanish with the megafauna. Instead, they reorganized their societies and thrived in the changing landscape. They survived temperatures and conditions that would be lethal to unprepared groups. Their success proves they were sophisticated actors within a complex system. We now know the timeline of these events with absolute certainty. The megafauna did not fade away over thousands of years. They disappeared in a sharp, clear window around 12,900 years ago. This conclusion is drawn from a dense record that does not rely on sparse data. The evidence is complete, and the debate over the cause is settled. The intelligence of these ancient ancestors lives on. They were not primitive people struggling to survive. They were expert navigators of a world in transition. They developed systematic knowledge that allowed them to persist while the largest animals on the planet failed. Their journey is recorded in the layers of asphalt at La Brea. Every scientific term used to study this site provides a clear window into the past. Isotope analysis measures the chemical signatures in bones to show what someone ate. Stratigraphy is the study of rock and sediment layers to determine the order of events. These methods converge to provide a finished record of life and death. The extinction of the La Brea megafauna was not a sign of human failure. It was evidence of human influence operating within a changing climate. The humans who lived through this were skilled and deliberate. They possessed extraordinary knowledge of their environment. They were master architects of their own survival. We can now look back at the past with clarity. The mystery that once lingered without resolution now has one. The evidence from 3 separate labs has confirmed the same story. The extinction was driven by a climate shift and accelerated by human-led fire. The archive at La Brea has provided the final, definitive answer. This resolution gives us a clearer view of ancient capabilities. These people were not just lucky, they were highly capable. They faced an environmental crisis and responded with intelligence. Their ability to adapt and survive is the reason we are here today. The journey of your ancestors is written in the earth and the asphalt. The La Brea tar pits function like a natural data logger. They recorded ecological information for 50,000 years without stopping. The site shows us that complex questions can be answered when multiple lines of evidence align. Morphology, isotopes, and radiocarbon dating all point to the same conclusion. There is no longer a need to speculate about what happened. The record is finished, the sequence is established. We now know exactly when and why the megafaunal world ended. This discovery connects decades of findings into a single, coherent timeline. It provides the closure that only hard evidence can deliver. The intelligence of our ancestors is no longer a theory, but a proven fact.